Men, what if everything we've been told about the refractory period is a lie? In this video, we're going to dive deep into what we're being sold about the refractory period, and we're going to dive into what are the possibilities, what are the other potentials that might exist post-ejaculation. For those who don't know me, my name is Ian Wood, and for the last decade, I've worked with some of the largest men's organizations when it comes to personal development, specifically focused on men and their relationship to sexuality. And I've worked with men all over the world, over 70 different countries, and specifically focused on sexuality because I've seen that in most men's personal development, this subject is lacking. Now, what has inspired this video? For me, I obviously have my finger on the pulse. I'm deeply engaged in these conversations, and I'm constantly hearing people talk about the refractory period. And in my own personal experience, I've noticed that as I've changed my own relationship to sexuality, to pleasure, to masturbation, things have changed in what I feel after I ejaculate. Now, I can remember early on in my life, particularly when I wasn't in a monogamous relationship, maybe was out dating more, having more 1 or 2 or 3 night stands. And I can remember that refractory period feeling that once the ejaculation happened, I would start questioning myself. What was I doing? Why am I here? I don't even like this person. Some of those common energy dips. There's the classic story that once the man ejaculates, he rolls over. He doesn't want any connection. He doesn't want any touch. Now, the more that I have gone down this journey of bringing integrity, accountability, health into my relationship with sexuality, the more that I've started to question all the things that were sold. Now, first of all, I do think that it's important to question how often we're ejaculating. That question in my own life sent me on a powerful journey. But like anything else in the world, this subject, the pendulum has swung huge the other direction, and this is the nofap movement. This is semen retention in a lot of ways that I think are toxic, that are not healthy. And that is to bring shame. I've heard crazy things on social media. I heard this one woman saying that every time you ejaculate, you're making your life shorter, which there is just nothing that backs that. It's absolute insanity. Now, let's talk a bit about the claims, what's out there. Now, the main thing that people talk about post-ejaculation is prolactin. And like all subjects when it comes to sexuality, there is just not enough science out there to really support and just say, oh, this is the truth. I know everything. We need more research. We need more data. We need larger numbers. It's supportive to point us in a particular direction, but it's stupid to not ask more questions. And when it comes to prolactin, this is a place that I believe that there's an opportunity to ask more questions. One of the things that we're sold about post-ejaculation is that your energy is going to drop. You're going to feel disconnected. You're not going to be as engaged. All these things are going to drop. It's this story of drop. And as I've said, in my own experience, I've seen this change where in my life now, it's very rare that after I ejaculate, I feel a drop in my energy. And this is where I think that there's an important place to bring in conversation, which is when it comes to research, there is a lot of variables. There's a ton of variables, and this is why science constantly changing and has changed for time immemorial. There's like pivotal things in science that'll shift and completely have us looking at things in a different way. And an aspect to be aware of when it comes to studies around refractory periods is all of these men that are being studied, we have no idea what their background is when it comes to their relationship to sexuality. What a man is thinking about, the way he's touching his body, and And the way he's done that for the entirety of his life is going to have an impact on the chemistry that is correlated to his behavior. If he is ejaculating purely in fantasy, he's in his head, he's disconnected from his body, I would wager to bet that his chemistry is going to be different than a person that maybe is trained in another way of relating with arousal, pleasure, ejaculation. Now, I'm not trying to say that science isn't helpful. That's not at all what I'm saying. But this information around refractory period has become very stagnant, and it's basically people pretending like they know what happens after you ejaculation when there is not enough research to act like we know, and there's a lot of variables that aren't talked about in the research that's out there. Like I said, the greatest pharmacy that exists is in our brain-body connection, and that is impacted by our senses, it is impacted by our thoughts, and it is impacted by our history, meaning what our relationship to something has been. What my relationship to masturbation has been. If I grew up in my relationship to masturbation and ejaculation is shame, I guarantee you that is going to have an impact on the chemistry that is happening inside of my body. Now, once again, I'm not here to say like all the information is wrong or bad. I'm here saying there's more to it. And in my own experience, and what I encourage you men, what I'm encouraging in this video is to don't get caught up in the shame of ejaculation. I think a lot of men, as soon as they ejaculate, they spiral out into shame. And a lot of it is correlated to the story. If I'm telling myself, if you know anything about the power of placebo, if I start to program myself that the refractory period is bad, and after I ejaculate, I'm going to lose my energy, I'm going to disconnect from the person, like if I'm telling myself that, it's going to have a powerful impact on my experience. Now, if I'm telling myself, and I tell myself more on this side of the things, that my energy doesn't drop, I feel great after I ejaculate. I feel present. I feel deeply connected to all the enjoyable feelings in my body. I feel deeply connected to my partner. In fact, when I ejaculate, I'm attuning my attention to all the pleasure I feel in my body. I'm attuning my awareness to my connection to my partner or my connection with myself. I am amplifying that enjoyable period through my awareness and through my patterns and my practices. The refractory period does not have to be some terrible thing. And that's what I want you men to take away from this is to get curious. Post-ejaculation, where might there be room for improvement for you? Where might there be an opportunity for you? What are you thinking about after you ejaculate? What are you focused on in feeling after you ejaculate? And can you see that has a correlation to your past and different experiences, belief systems, things people said that had an impact on how you feel after you ejaculate? We are complex beings, and these experiences have deep complexity to them. Whether it's in self-pleasure, whether it's in a sexual experience with a partner, start to explore how you can be the dictator of how you feel in your refractory period. What can you think? What can you do? What can you focus on that brings more pleasure, that has you feeling energized, that has you feeling connected? What opportunity exists for you there? I'd love to hear any conversation in the comments, to open up a discussion on this subject. I think that these conversations have a lot of room for discussion because there hasn't been a ton of investment in the science of pleasure and sexuality. So this is the time to have these conversations and have it hopefully lead to expanding research, and differing opinions in these topics. If this is the type of information that you enjoy, if you want to be in a community of men that are having these deep conversations, I run a community space. It's called Men's Sexual Confidence, and we have weekly community calls. We have trainings on masturbation, pleasure, better sex life. I have teachers come in and lead guided pleasure events that are like meditative, sensual experiences. If you're a man that wants a better sex life, if you're a man that wants to feel more fulfillment, more satisfaction, more power in your relationship to sexuality, reach out to me. I'll put a link in the description as well. Most of all, my hope, my purpose is that we as men, we start to dismantle some of the stories and narratives that are out there around our relationship to sexuality, and we start to have it be another avenue of personal health. Just like going to the gym, just like eating well, just like getting good sleep, we create a healthy relationship to sexuality, and we bring all that we're developing there, all that energy, all that focus, and we put it into all the other areas of our life. If you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, I've got so much more to come. And as always, on this journey together as men, when we have these conversations, when we move through the shame, we all rise together.